It's always nice to beat up on Michigan, and I can say that 9 straight times now.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another post-game edition's victory session of Locked On Illini. My name, as always, is Sunny Verma, your host right here of Locked On Illini. Find me on all your favorite social medias. Just send me a hello. Let's celebrate. Tell me what you thought of today's game. Today, I'm glad. Halftime, I'm going to admit I was a bit uneasy. It was a 1-point lead at half when I thought we should have been up by 7, if not 10 points. Just a lot of wide open shots not falling. Michigan not playing well. Kasparis no showing practically for that entire first half. Get to all that fun stuff later. You go into the Wolverines' house, and you really, in particular in that second half, you embarrass the Wolverines. You outscore them 62-43 in that second half. And as Philip from the Locked On Illini Discord mentioned to me, this is the 6th time that Illinois has had a 20-plus victory against a conference opponent. That's the type of information you get from our Discord. So the link should be in the description somewhere. Definitely join us. We had a great time today. All of us were on edge, nervous about this game. I hate to say it. I felt a little bit better when I saw pictures of Juwan Howard entering the building. Well, obviously he was there for senior day. His son's a senior, so they brought him in. And, at this point, someone also mentioned, can we just start a GoFundMe? I might just do it here at Locked On Illini. A GoFundMe for Juwan Howard season tickets to Michigan Wolverines basketball. Give me a Y in the chat if you're down, if you're going to contribute to this, because, again, 9 straight wins over a very good Michigan team, right? I've been giving Michigan praise all year long. I've at some points in the season called them the best team in the Big Ten Conference. They're tied for first coming into this game, and Illinois is shorthanded. Without Morez Johnson. Morez Johnson is a guy who would have matched up really, really well against a team like Michigan, but it didn't matter. Illinois played their game plan, whereas Michigan really wasn't able to take care of theirs. Vlad Golden, fantastic game, fantastic player. That's about it. Today, and most of this episode, I just want to give credit where I think it's due, and that's the role players of the Illini. I know I get a little excited on the show. On one week, I'll say, is the season over? Are we broken? And then the very next week, have we turned it around? Are we back? Today was a good example of why we might be back. Kasparis Yakushonis finished with 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Respectable box score line. But, and I mean this kindly, he had nothing to do with this 20-point victory over Michigan. Illinois won by double digits, by 20 points, in an away game in Ann Arbor against a team that we all hate without their best player showing up. Just a bad game by him. But you know who who didn't have a bad game? By the way, let me know your MVPs in that second segment, which I'll get to. Because right now, there's really 3-4 guys that I could think of. And again, in the first half, we're talking about, Kylan Boswell and Trey White just carrying this team. Thomas Levovicic, I thought he would be key for us just to kind of counteract Michigan's size. He had a ho-hum game, an average game. But the two guys I kept thinking about was Kylan Boswell, Trey White. And they were just playing the games of their lives this year. But Illinois was only up 1. And so I was already getting the script in my head. I was going to come on to the show and be like, hey, look, great game by Kylan, great game by Trey White. But listen, if Kylan Boswell and Trey White are your 2 best players, you're not going to win a basketball game, in particular in the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten's way too deep. And certainly, you're not going to beat a team like the Michigan Wolverines, who are ranked, top, I believe, 15 coming into this game. Again, number 1 in the Big Ten Conference. They were half a game back because the Spartans won earlier today. By the way, thank you. You're welcome, Michigan State Spartans. Matt Sheehan, host of Locked On Spartans. I know you're happy. But it turns out you can win with Trey White, Kylan Boswell, oh, and by the way, Will Riley, and oh, by the way, Ben Humrickhouse, all show up and have just the game that we've been waiting for them to play all year long. You know, we keep talking about how talented this team is and how talented these role players are. And even I'm mocking myself saying, hey, don't let me say that again. But when Kylan Boswell plays the way he did today, both offensively and defensively, when Trey White, who I've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, if there's one thing that me and Brad Underwood just don't agree on, it's Trey White's role on this team. I've talked about this, my everydayers know. I mention this constantly. I think he's an above-average college basketball player. And Trey, let's be honest, Trey White probably wouldn't have even seen the floor again if it weren't for Morez Johnson going down. But at this point, Brad has to be smiling because Trey White today, 19 points, 11 rebounds. Oh, wait, I haven't even mentioned the rebounding in this game. This was a game of Michigan can match the bigs that Illinois traditionally pulls out onto the court. Today, the rebounding, again, a rebounding which for Illinois has been the story of the season. We've out-rebounded almost every team that we play, and we haven't the last handful of games. And guess what happened today? Illinois, 43 rebounds. Michigan, 32. Michigan's both bigs played. Illinois without Morez Johnson, arguably their best rebounder. But this was a collective team effort. Kylan Boswell with 9 rebounds. Trey White with 11 rebounds. Ben Humrickhouse with 5 rebounds. Jacques Shonis with 6. A lot of times we sit here, and understandably, I'm saying we were right at the time, to question whether this team was broken, whether they're into it, whether sometimes they just seemed a little lackadaisical, especially in particular when the shots don't fall in. But nobody can say that after today's game. And I'm not even talking about us seeing after the fact that the three-point shots fell. You know, Illinois ultimately finished 14 for 37 for 38% from three-point line. But in that first half, someone could mention in the comments, they were like 3 from 14, something along those lines. So those three-point shots were not falling. But Illinois was still grabbing every rebound they can grab. They're pulling it, leaving it all out on that floor. And again, very bad Kaspersky. And that's kind of why I've sat here. I said this last week, and I'm going to be talking about it again this week. It's been an up and down season. And I've been saying it all year long that this is going to be a roller coaster season just because of this roster composition that Brad has put together. We had the highest of highs earlier in the year. We were a top 10 basketball team. We beat Oregon by 30. We beat a couple other Big Ten teams by 30 points. And then it just seemed like everything in the month of January and the first half of February just went off track. And it looked like, hey, are we even going to make the NCAA tournament? Well, we're certainly in now. If there was any doubts left after that Iowa game, which there probably should not have been, another quad one impressive victory on the road against the Wolverines. Now, my everydayers, I'm calling you guys out here now. I released an episode on the preview of the Iowa game. Because I woke up, I believe it was that Monday when I recorded it. And we were all nervous. Hey, this with the way Illinois has been playing, who knows? We could absolutely lose against Iowa and lose out for the rest of the season. And at that point, I was just like, you know what? The team is finally healthy. Can we acknowledge that the team itself, which we know is talented, how talented, we don't know. But more often than not, Illinois puts more talented 5 players on the basketball court than the opposition. In particular, with Morez being gone, Brad's not even playing role players. And that was the case today, too. We're basically playing 5, 6 guys, maybe 7 on occasion when someone needs a breather. So I said, hey, you know what? Illinois is finally healthy. The country has written us off. We're being mocked by other fan bases. Why not now? I said, hey, Illinois, at this point, I'm seeing a convincing win against Iowa. And that can be the momentum that we need to go into Ann Arbor to beat Michigan. And then we play Purdue in Champaign for our last game of the year. Now, of course, we still got to take care of business against Purdue. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but how many of you would have thought we'd be 2-0 at this stretch? Could this be the team that we've been kind of waiting for all season long? We saw a lot of it in the out-of-conference schedule. We saw glimpses of it in the early part of the Big Ten schedule. Then it all just went away. And I'm not making excuses, but I'm offering context. I'm offering information that a lot of these guys were hurt. A lot of these guys were sick. Brad isn't lying to you when he says this team is not practicing together. When a team only practices together 3 or 4 times in the month of January, yeah, that defense that you need. Look, offense can come naturally, right? If you're a good offensive player, you just need to see the ball going. Defense is where you work on arguably more in practice, where you're learning timing and all that. And I don't know if it's necessarily a coincidence that their defensive numbers have fallen off. But the team got healthy again. They started, maybe, coincidentally, playing well again. And who knows? We're going to be mocked again, right? But I'm just going to say, we're in our group. We're in our little Illini circle right now. This is 24 hours, right? 24-hour period. I get to say whatever I want. I guess I got less than 24 hours because I got to release an episode for Monday's Locked On Illini. But right now, is there any team in the Big Ten Conference that wants to see Illinois in the Big Ten tournament? Let's get to your thoughts right after this. Yes, I know. 120 people here, and we have not hit the amount of likes that we need. I'm pulling that up right now. So if you're watching this, guys, the vibes are great, right? We beat Michigan on a Sunday by 20-plus points. We were 3.5-point underdogs coming into the game. And again, it's all second half. We outscored Michigan by 19 points in that second half. A relatively healthy Michigan team, where their best player was, guess what? The best player. Where for Illinois, let's just talk about some of the individual players right now. Kasparis, let's just get it out of the way. I'm not going to hate on him too much, but you want your best player to show up for these sort of games, and that's fine. It's comforting to know that Illinois can win games the way that they did today, but let's not put ourselves in that position again. Let's get your. I know, again, he finished with 17-6-4, but it was a very empty 17-6-4. He had 3 points in that first half. A lot of that 17 came with essentially the game was done and over with. In fact, Illinois made a run in that second half with Kasparis and Ivisic on the bench. Arguably your 2 best players. You know why? Because what we needed Kasparis Jakushonis to do, Will Riley stepped up and did. And it's been an amazing story. It's just today, the box score looks solid, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, but he was the playmaker. He was the guy who's attacking the rim constantly. So, surprisingly, he only shot 1 free throw, but that's just because that's what referees still don't give Will the benefit of the doubt. But even when attacking the basket, even the announcers had mentioned it. Like, he was making the right decisions. If it wasn't there, more often than not, it was, and he did get a shot up. But if it wasn't there, he didn't force it. He found the open man. Will Riley, I talked about it with Kent, Casual Big Ten, on the preview for this very game, that we absolutely needed a Kasparis game. And then I talked about Will. We didn't get the Kasparis game, but Will showed up and was arguably our most important player today. But our best players, again, I don't know. There's 3 guys. I'm going to start from 3, 2, 1. I have to give this guy some love because I spend a lot of this show and the chat here and the commenters spend a lot of time all season long hating on this kid because you know what? He hasn't lived up to expectations. But what a game by Ben Hummerkaus. And I'm not even just talking about shooting. 3 for 8. 3 for 8 does not sound all that great. But look, if any of you are going to watch this game again, I beg you, I plead you to watch Ben. Ben made 90% of the time the right decisions on defense. And a lot of the important rebounds we needed, it was Ben coming down with them. All the type of intangibles that you need your role players to do. Again, this is what, if Ben is in this sort of role, I think he's a big plus player for the Illini. We just pigeonholed him with maybe expectations that weren't fair to Ben. He didn't ask to come in and be the next Dalton Connect. That was John Fanta. And sure, Brad Underwood hyped Ben up, but you know what? Brad Underwood hypes everybody. Brad Underwood tried telling us that Mark Smith was what, the next Jason Kidd? We need to take what Brad says with, very little substance moving forward. But in this role where Ben is just like a role player, I know he played a lot of minutes today, and of course he had to play a lot of minutes because Avicic got into foul trouble. Ben was our 5 for almost half the game today. And you know what? If you had told, there's 130 people in this chat right now. If you had told 130 people, each and every one of us, that Ben Humrickhouse would have played as many minutes as he did and been our center for most of that game, and then you said, oh, final scored 93-73, we'd all be shaking our heads. We lost. We'd be convinced that Illinois lost by 20 points to Michigan. And that's not what happened. Number 2, for me, I'm going to go with Trey White. And this was hard. You saw how long I hesitated on who I want to make MVP. Trey White, again, guys, you don't have to run anything for him. All he does is attack, attack, attack. Whether that's scoring, whether that's attacking the rim, or attacking the rebounds. 19 and 11 from Trey White today. And a solid defensive effort today. He's just a kid who, again, if I could have Brad Underwood in a room with me, I would love to find out what it is about Trey that he was ready to not play him anymore. Because he's clearly one of the best players on Illinois. And he's shown it ever since let's be honest, since Morez got hurt. And I'm very curious, and this is a topic for another day, that with the rumors that Morez Johnson might be back next week, how does the rotation change around? If you're asking me, you can't change anything right now. I love Morez. I vocalize my love for Morez on this podcast every time I watch him play. Let him come off the bench. He's a freshman. He does a lot of good things, but this team right now is rolling. Let's not disrupt this. A lot of us, hand up, thought that once we lost Moritz for the season, we lost the season. That, now there's nothing to look forward to. The team's dysfunctional. We don't have any bigs. Avicic is sick. Avicic his ankle is swollen. And now we lost Morez, the one guy who's 110% all day, every day. Yet that's not what happened. The team bonded. Why? Hey, because they got healthy. They started playing together again. They started practicing together again. Guess what? This team is actually a very talented basketball team. And I'm checking my notes right now. And yeah, it turns out when this team makes baskets, they're even better. Which brings me to the MVP of today. And again, he had a couple plays that made me want to pull my hair out. Absolutely. But Kylan Boswell played with the moxie that he was the best player on the court today. And that's not always a good thing. Even mid-game, that's not always a good thing, because you'll see Kylan shoot up shots that he has no business taking. I don't care if he's 10 for 10 from the field. He'll just do a step-back three-pointer. It's like, guy, dude, come on. You didn't have to take that shot. But today, it was like he was the leader on that court, in my opinion. How many and ones did he get? Just attacking the rim, attacking the boards. Guys, he's your starting point guard. And he had 9 rebounds today. 17, 9, and 4. There's not many games this year I've said Kylan Boswell is your MVP. And this one, again, I'm going back and forth with. Riley was the playmaker today. He was the guy that we needed Kaspersky to be. Ben Humrickhouse, just the ultimate role player, just excelled at everything that we want a guy like Ben Humrickhouse to do. Trey White just continues to prove that, hey, he's a lot better than a lot of people thought 3-4 weeks ago. And Kylan Boswell, a guy who, with Kasparis, his backcourt partner, essentially no showing, he showed up. All right, let's get to your thoughts now, right after this. All right, 46 likes, 145 people watching. Come on, guys. The vibes have to be a lot better in here tonight. It's a 20-point victory over your division, your conference rival. And you know what? Guess what, guys? Guess which university hasn't lost to a Michigan university, the University of Michigan, all sports calendar? That's right. We took care of the Wolverines in football, and we took care of the Wolverines in basketball. And that's nice. Again, I'll always feel a little salty towards Michigan after they stole that COVID title from the Illini. So 9-0, I don't care. 9-0 against Penn State would be impressive. 9-0 against Northwestern would be impressive. 9 wins in a row against the Michigan Wolverines is impressive, no matter what era you're in. All right, let's get to the chat now. I'm sure you guys are feeling it today. Caitlin, thank you for joining us. I love beating Michigan. Oh, DT Lions. Okay, I'm assuming a Detroit fan. Michigan are a bunch of frauds. Jason, thank you for joining us. Now, that was awesome. Kerry Booth even hit a 3. Yeah. See, I turned it off because I was working on the graphics for this, so I missed that one. Jason Long says, join the Discord. I'm telling you, fellas, won't be disappointed. Absolutely. Link is in the description. Again, today was fun. Today we're having a lot of fun in there. Global says, I called it on the last podcast. Let Vlad and his pressure. You did, absolutely. Softest 7-footer ever. Make the rest of the mediocre squad beat us. Shoot 30% from threes. We own Michigan. Yeah, it's basically we let Golden do whatever he wants, and let's see if anyone else steps up on Michigan, and nobody could. Nobody could. Do you think Michigan are frauds? I'm actually curious. Let me know what you guys. Who watches Big Ten basketball outside Illinois? Because I still think they're a very good basketball team. I just think that they're a flawed basketball team. And I talked about this in the pregame for this, where I previewed this game with Kent. It's a good basketball team with 2 really good bigs, one of which barely showed up today. I mean, if I'm going to be hating on Kasparis, I mean, Kenny Wolf did nothing. Non-factor today. And by the way, did you know that Vlad Golden's parents were in attendance today? Because they only let you know that about 12 times during this broadcast. Jason says, I will give props to Boswell. He's guarding Wolf and battle his butt off. Boswell is a plus defensive player. He really is. There's things that'll drive you crazy about him because of just the tomfoolery that goes on in his head where he just makes passes that he doesn't need to. But if he just focused, and maybe that's the right word. I don't know. I'm going to have to spend the next 24 hours figuring out what the right word is. If he just focused and played his game, the guy is a tank. There's very few point guards in the Big Ten Conference that can guard him. He's guarding power forwards right now because of his body and because we've needed him to. He's doing what we need Morez to do. We've got our point guard doing it. 6'3", 200 pounds? But when you have a Kylan game like today, and I know some of you in the comments of my preview all talked about, hey, Kylan is the key guy. I said it was going to be Kasparis, so good on you guys who called for a Kylan Boswell game because you got it. Jay says, agree, definitely a team effort. KJ came to play in the second half. White double-double. I mean, everyone brought it. Serena, new member of the Discord, says, love the effort on the boards and on defense. Great effort by Trey. Jason says, I called Ben having a great defensive game, leading him to getting hot. Oh, yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben just seems, again, one of those guys who he's I'll say that thing. He's mentally a little fragile, right? When he's on, when good things happen, good things will continue to happen. When bad things happen, bad things might continue to happen. But fantastic game by Ben Hummerkaus today. Philip says, Ben focused on rebounding and letting his shots come in rhythm, except for that one shot. But I didn't even mind that heat check that he took with like 20 seconds left on the shot clock. He had made 2 previously in the I think 2 of the previous 3 possessions. Go ahead, shoot it. William says Illinois finally played a complete game with this tournament coming up. A complete game without a great game from the best player. I know I keep repeating myself, but Illinois scored 93 points today. and a lot of just empty minutes from Kaspersky in that second half. It's just all those Duke. Sorry, I just read the next comment. Let me just get to that. Terry saying the Duke bad loss was the best thing that happened to us. The embarrassing loss that was. You're absolutely right, Terry. A lot of people had given up on this team. A lot of people on these very shows, the post games, would say, hey, I appreciate your effort. I love that you do this after every single game, but this team's not worth watching anymore. I'm out. I'll see you next season. I hope some of those guys are come back, because this team, when they play like this, they're a lot of fun. Paul says Trey White was fired. Caitlin says, got to get Juwan at all our games. We always win with him in the building. I'm telling you, let's start a GoFundMe, season tickets, front court seats for Juwan Howard. Richard said, Boswell, best game of the year. Absolutely. Jason's feeling comfortable. Bring on Purdue, fellas. We're getting healthy and hot at the same time. This was the best we have played since Oregon. You might be right. I mean, I'm trying to cycle through the games really quickly while I'm on here. But, yeah, it was a complete team effort today. John says, let's go. This game was so much more fun because of the Discord server. Thank you. Thanks, everyone in the community, for the great experience. John, thank you. Paul Miller said the new defense is working. We love to see it. So here comes a couple MVP picks. Caitlin says Boswell. Jason Long says Boswell. Paul says Will Riley or Trey White. Caitlin, Boswell, and Riley. Dennis says Ben has got to get some love for his defense. Dennis, I hope I've been expressive about that, because I really made mental notes that I need to talk about Ben Humrinkhouse. I watch every game the next day, right? You guys know that, just to collect more thoughts for future episodes. And if you are of that type, if you DVR, I keep saying DVR, no one DVRs anymore, but if you record these games in any sort of manner and you can go back and watch them, watch Ben Humrinkhouse. Fantastic game. All-around game. And not a star. We didn't ask him to be a star. He played a perfect role player game. And you know what? That's all we need. Jeff was, this was not possible without our offensive rebounding. Credit to the team for their amazing effort. We look confident shooting our shots in the second half. Confidence is a huge part of the game. And again, ironically, a week and a half ago, I called this team broken. And here they are looking as confident as they have all season long. Was this, new question, was this the most impressive win that Illinois has had this year? It has to be, right? Because coming into today, it was probably Wisconsin. It looked like it was going to be Oregon, but Oregon's kind of fallen off a little bit. So Wisconsin was the best win Illinois has had so far this year, but we beat them at home. This was a 20-point victory against Michigan, top of the Big Ten Conference, away in their house. Jason says, I can't wait to watch Sleepers Media. He was at a Michigan game today. Daddy Brad has your number. Yeah, Greg, a former friend of the show. Yeah, he wanted this matchup. I think he predicted Michigan to win by 20+. First half, Kylan Boswell. Second half, Trey White. They were the MVPs. The role players did excellent today. They were key in winning this game today. Rebounding and second opportunities were real. Absolutely, Kenny Energy. And I think I really want to talk about that this week. Like, how comforting it is to know that even without your star players playing like star players, your role players are just good enough. Especially when they play like this. This was a 20-point win against Michigan at their house. How impressive of a win would this have been if we played a slightly inferior team? Michigan may not be a national championship contender, but they're certainly a Sweet 16 contender. They're top 15 for a reason, guys. They're going to be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. And Illinois just manhandled them when we were undersized compared to them. Michigan had a taller player at every spot in that starting lineup. We were without our best rebounder, Morris Johnson Jr. Didn't matter. More of your thoughts right after this. Jason says, the fire Brad. He is trash. Underwood haters can shut it for a while. Please sit down. They'll be back. They'll be back. If we lose to Purdue, they'll be back. Justin says, I agree with you. Oh, yeah. Fred says Trey White is playing like a seasoned veteran. We need slashing to the hoop, getting to the foul, leading us in scoring and rebounding. Exactly, Fred. Trey White's just one of those where I know Brad is stubborn about the style of offense that he wants to run here, but Illinois isn't a premier top 3 program, okay? Like, when you have a college basketball player that's this good at, playing college basketball, you incorporate them into your rotation. into your lineup. It shouldn't have taken a Morez Johnson injury. Because you know what? Trey White had a really good December. A lot of those games, he showed that he was one of our 3 best players. And so he got sick and then all of a sudden disappeared. And I know he doesn't shoot threes. And, I have thoughts for a future episode about how big of a role Trey White can play on next year's team, because you assume you're going to bring Morez Johnson back in a starting role, and then Trey White, having 2 non-shooters in your starting lineup, is that going to work? But right now, Morez is not playing. Give Trey White, just give him burn on that court, because you know what? When he's on that court, good things continue to happen. Kenny says Will Riley had some awesome moments in this game too, 100%. Again, Will played the role, the facilitator role, the attacking player role that Michigan can't guard. And that's why I was so adamant on it in the preview of this game. That I know Michigan has the advantage with the 2 bigs in the middle that Illinois isn't built to defend. But Illinois themselves have the guards who can dribble that Michigan can't defend. So for me, it's like, which side is going to win out? Which side can overcome their weakness? Clearly, it was Illinois today. Don says, nice momentum into Purdue, hopefully. One more game. Here's my friend St. Dom's Rosary. Still don't believe in Brad Underwood. Congratulations on 1 win against Michigan. Overall, Underwood's not getting the job. Okay, thanks, Saint. He said the same thing against Iowa. Iowa's a trash team. They stink. What are we celebrating? Now it's a 20-point victory against the number 15 team in the country, the team that's on top of the Big Ten conference, and still just not impressed. But, take that into context moving forward. Phil says KJ did have a 17-6-4. Phil, you're absolutely right, but in particular, those scoring numbers, they're really just empty calories at the end of the game. I don't think he had a very good game. Jason says, Sunny was bumming at half, but man, I feel like we played our best defensive game of the year. They had the size and we dominated rebounding. KJ and Boswell helped. Yeah, I mean, again, they just attacked the rim. There was no loose ball that Illinois was not surrounding. And you know what? That's what's going to give them a chance to win every game. And when they shoot the way that they shoot, no brainer. Sometimes I don't care about this. Only thing I care about is the Sweet 16 and higher. Been watching Illinois since 78. Been there, done that. Sweet 16 and higher is all I care about. Nikki says, the Discord keeps me sane with the ebbs and flows. If you ain't in it, get in there. Paul Miller says, inside out makes the threes work. Don says, 62 points second half, impressive on the road. It was a domination in that second half. Like Illinois was clearly the better team in that second half, which is why I'm in the mood that I'm in now. Right? It's not, if it was one of those close games where Illinois barely eked out, trust me, I would have a smile on my face and be like, hey, this team is turning around. But Michigan's a good basketball team, arguably a very good basketball team. They're not elite, but they're a very good basketball team. And Michigan didn't look like they belonged on the court with Illinois in that second half. And why? Not because Illinois had the better players necessarily. One of our best players was gone. The guy who was probably the key to our matchup against Michigan. No, they just outworked Michigan. And our role players stepped up. And guess what, guys? Brad Underwood outcoached Dusty May today. Dusty May, I guess Tom Izzo is going to win it now, but Dusty May is going to finish what? Top 2 or 3 in Big Ten Coach of the Year this season. Brad Underwood made the right halftime adjustments, and he outmaneuvered Dusty in today's game. Mike says, what are the chances at the tournament? Oh, we're in, Mike. Now, at this point, what we want is we need to win as many games as we can, Purdue, and have a good showing in that Big Ten tournament, because what we don't want is to be an 8 or 9 seed. Because 8 or 9 seeds means we play Duke, Auburn, Tennessee, one of those big juggernauts this season. And that's just not what we want to face going in. We want to make the Sweet 16. And, again, having Auburn on your schedule on your second game will give some of the Brad haters the ammunition that they need to say, see, Brad couldn't make it to the Sweet 16, even though he went up against a number 1 seed. Serene says the MVP split between Trey, Kylan, and Will. Those are the 3 guys I couldn't decide. Yeah, and Ben. Trey was disappointing, but we didn't need him. Dre, yeah, it's tough. He hasn't contributed much. He's trying out there, but you take a look at his box score games now. Even though Illinois themselves has been doing great, yeah, I don't know. He's one of those guys with Kylan playing the way he is and Dre playing the way he is. Illinois is going to bring in another guard next year to replace Kasparis and Will. Like, does Dre stick around? I don't know. We'll talk about that on a different day. Philip says, I just want to see Maryland in the Big Ten tournament. Bad matchup. Yeah, you know what? 100%. Maryland, we've already seen. And again, that loss ended up better than we originally all thought it was going to be. Everyone chalked that up as a really bad loss early in the season. Guys, Maryland's good. Kevin Willard, we've all hated on Kevin Willard. But that team is talented. And those two bigs, we did what Michigan today could not do. And so, yeah, that's the one team I want to avoid at all costs when it comes to the Big Ten tournament. Brian says the ball bounced our way. Rebounding was huge. Absolutely. All right. What else? Richard says we are on the 6th line. Okay. I don't know. I might bring in a bracketologist sometime this week to see where exactly we're at. But all right, I'm going to wrap it up here. I appreciate all of you guys joining. Please, on your way out, if you don't mind, hit that like button. 72 likes, 160 people in here. Get those likes up. Send this to all your friends. Locked On Illini content every single day. You've gotten a fresh piece of content every single day this year in the year 2024. It's March 2nd. I continue to grind. There's no other Illini source out there doing that. And if there is, show me. Please, show me. Appreciate all of you. What a win today. I can't wait to talk about it all week long. We got Purdue this week. Final game of the year. I'm actually looking forward. ILL. Love you guys.